Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. I wanted to talk this morning about something that's not necessarily car related. I tend to do that, as everybody who follows me already knows. But at any rate, I caught something about Trump apparently backing the forgiveness of student loans. I don't know all of the details of it, but what struck me about that is that isn't this one of those things that a lot of people who supported Trump were opposed to back when Joe Biden floated that idea, the forgiveness of student loan debt. Now, I personally don't like the idea either, simply because I think if you voluntarily assume a debt, that it's your obligation to pay it. I mean, at least I've been held to that standard all my own life. I had to pay for my college education. I didn't get forgiven for that. I had to pay for my house. I paid the mortgage. I don't understand the logic of it. You know, I understand it sucks to have $50,000, $100,000 worth of debt hanging over your head, and I understand that college education in the current environment is absurdly overpriced, you know, relative to what it was back when I was in college in the 80s. You know, I get that, I understand that, but nonetheless, it's not like anybody has a gun pointed at their heads and told that they have to go to college and that they have to sign up for all of this debt. It's a choice, and you're free to make it or not. And I feel like if you've bought a service, college education is a service, you're paying them, you want the college degree, this is what it costs, you're signing up for that, well, then you kind of owe it, don't you? And this idea of forgiving it is dangerous, because if we forgive that, well, why not forgive other people's debt? How about people who rack up a lot of credit card debt? That's also a choice. I could choose to do that. You know, I'm one of those stupid people, I suppose, who pays my bills. You know, if I buy something with a credit card, I pay it, and if I don't pay it, you know, the interest accrues, and then I have to pay that. But at the end of the day, I made the choice to use my credit card to buy something, so it's kind of on me, isn't it, to pay the bill for it? And you know, rattling it around in my head, well, if a student can say, well, I can't afford to pay this college loan debt that I assumed, so I want it forgiven. Well, how about I go out and buy some expensive item with my credit card, or maybe let's say I want to go out and buy something like this fancy Lexus that I'm test driving this week, and then I decide down the road, well, you know what, that was a mistake. I don't like having to make these payments on this thing. I'd really rather just be forgiven. Well, why not? You know, in principle, if the government can step in and say that one category of people isn't obligated to pay a debt because, you know, they find the debt to be too heavy for them, they feel burdened by it, okay, well then why should other people have to pay debts that are burdensome to them? You see where I'm headed with this? That's why I think it's a bad idea. There are surely better ways of dealing with this, and I think one of the better ways of dealing with it is to simply not sign up for the debt. If I were of college age today, I think I probably wouldn't go to college because it's a bad deal. You know, I'm a journalist, and what does it take to be a journalist? It takes basic competence with the language, the ability to string sentences together in a reasonably coherent manner, and hopefully in a somewhat entertaining manner. You don't need to go to college for 4 years to do that. I remember when I was in junior high, I probably could have gone directly from junior high to doing what I do because I was competent as a 7th or 8th grader with the language. I could express myself coherently. I knew grammar and punctuation and spelling and all of those things. You know, college was largely superfluous for me in terms of being able to do what I do. I can see it if you're wanting to be, say, an engineer, if you're wanting to be a doctor, then those things are sort of formal bodies of knowledge that just being reasonably bright and, you know, going out there experientially and learning how to do it, you know, that might not cut it for those types of things, certainly in terms of professional accreditation. But on the other hand, there, you know, are things like being an electrician, being a plumber, you know, knowing how to frame a wall. There's so many things that you can learn how to do and do very well just by going out there and doing them without necessarily going to college. And you'll make more money right away, right off the bat, as opposed to starting life out, you know, after college. You're 23 years old or so, and, you know, you got $100,000 worth of debt hanging over your head. I think it's a smarter move for most people to skip college. You know, there's not even any significant prestige attached to it anymore. You know, a college education nowadays is kind of analogous to what a high school degree used to be. It's really not much of a measure or indicator of intelligence or academic performance. So that would be my approach to it. If I were counseling a young person who was thinking about, well, should I go to college or should I not go to college? That's a better route. Just like I think it's a better route to not buy a new car unless you're very affluent, can afford it, can comfortably handle those payments. I think it's a much more prudent and intelligent choice to fix up the car that you have, buy a more affordable car in cash, keep that going, and to not find yourself burdened with this obnoxious and toxic debt that you can't manage. And then once you realize that it's toxic and you can't manage it, expect the government to come in and write it off for you. There's a moral aspect to that, because ultimately somebody else is going to have to pay for that, and that's not cool. If you think about it, just be honest with yourself. Is it cool to offload the debt that you chose to assume onto other people who are ultimately going to have to pay for that one way or another? I don't think it is. Anyway, those are my thoughts this morning. More up at epautos.com, the web's best libertarian gearhead site. I'll also have my interview earlier today with Brian Hyde up on the site, and I think I'm going to be doing a Liberty Conspiracy podcast this evening. This is Tuesday, and that will be live at if we're going to end up doing the same time, I think it'll be 7 o'clock this evening, but that's not totally lined up yet. So at any rate, I just wanted to mention it, and regardless, you can find more over at the site. I hope you'll swing by. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll catch up with you again soon.